So, we're finally ready to look at TV commercials. Something you probably thought we'd be studying all along. Now you get to. Congratulations. I'm going to talk about in this slideshow the concept of brands and branding, as well as the role that commercials play in the TV industry. So, what does it we mean when we say brand? Brand refers to a product as well as its associated meanings. Advertising works to associate meanings with a product. It is about building a brand through making reference to all kinds of previously existing cultural products and images. And that's what we're doing. We're looking at how brands are created through advertising, through associating things that exist in our culture to products. So branding refers to that process, the ways in which objects obtain value. In terms of other ways we'll be talking about brands, other terms you should know. When you have, relatively speaking, a lack of difference between products, when people don't think about various different brands associated with a product, that's called brand parity. Basically, it means they're interchangeable. That's not what you want. You want to, like we said at the very beginning of advertising culture, once you had that brand that people recognized and asked for name, you could charge more for it. It distinguished you from the others. Brand parity is not desirable. Instead, you want to have high brand salience. Brand salience refers to the order with which brands come to mind. So, for example, if I asked you, okay, name me a brand of jean, you probably very quickly say Levi's, then maybe Wrangler, then I don't know, the other stuff that would start coming up, changes from time to time. True Religion, I think that's one. There's difference in brand salience, so it's important to have brand salience. But that's different from brand image, and that's what advertising is about. So if you have a very strong brand image, you're going to have a higher brand salience. Brand image. These ideas about a particular brand that consumers have. So, moving on. Advertisers work to develop a brand's equity, the meaning of the brand. All right, so that's very similar to the idea of brand image, brand equity, what it means, the value that you're going to create for that brand. They also are going to seek to position a brand. What is your brand position? How is it distinguished from competitors? In the case of jeans, Wranglers you would position as the country or working alternative to Levi's, for example. So advertising is going to work to do that. They're going to associate ideas and an image with a brand, but they're going to do so in a way that separates it from the others, that positions it as being very different. Thirdly, it's going to keep doing that over and over again. They're going to reinforce that position. That is what this brand is about. So that's all about solidifying its brand image, reinforcing it so people continue to think of it that way. So it's not enough to create a strong brand image or a compelling brand equity that's different from others. You got to keep reinforcing that. That's why Coca-Cola spends so damn much money on advertising. That's why Levi's still spends so much advertising. You can't ever stop. Now, in terms of how television and advertising work together, it's important to have a little bit of a background on that process. In TV, when things first started out, programs were sponsored by a single brand, a single sponsor, a single advertiser. So that you had the Colgate Comedy Hour or the Texaco Star Theater. That shifted by the end of the 50s to what's known as the magazine format, whereby you would have a number of different sponsors who would buy short ads during a program, much like a magazine. If you think about flipping through a magazine, you have articles and you have short ads dispersed throughout the magazine. That's what television shifted to. And when it did that, control over the schedule and the productions shifted away from advertising agencies, who were the ones that used to produce TV, to the networks themselves. Okay, also very fundamental to how television works in conjunction with advertising is to think in terms of demographics. That is, marketing to particular audience groups based on their age, income, gender. Advertisers are interested not in appealing to everyone, but usually particular groups, and therefore will shape their advertising to appeal to that particular group. And they'll put it in a place where they can find that group. That brings us to the other tremendous shift in media culture related to advertising, the move from broadcasting to narrowcasting. Broadcasting means trying to reach as broad an audience as you can, as many people as possible. To narrowcasting, narrowly defining who your audience is in terms of demographics. So, while it might seem that advertisers want to appeal to as many people as possible, their desire to appeal to smaller, more defined audiences, those more likely to spend money, say, has accompanied and encouraged a shift to what's called narrowcasting. Not a broad audience, a narrow audience. And if you want to appeal to a broad array of people, generally what you'll do is narrowcast to a number of different audiences. And then those all add up to this broad audience. Okay, so again, what does narrowcasting mean? It means narrowly defining your audience to find a limited but homogeneous demographic population that is more likely to want your product. Now, there are increasingly challenges to television advertising. One is that our ability to circumvent, to get around, to avoid ads is as high as it's ever been. So, they have to figure out ways for us to not be able to get away from them, to not be able to fast forward through them, say. Another is that audiences are very much fragmented. We're doing lots of different things. Our attention is in different places. We're not just watching TV. We're playing video games. We're going online. We're watching a whole lot of different channels, not just, say, the 3 channels that existed in the network era. So advertisers have to go to all these different places to find audiences. Lastly, the ad environment itself is highly cluttered. It's not just enough, of course, to find that audience. You've got to get their attention. And you're competing with more and more images and ads than ever before. It's highly cluttered. There's lots of stuff out there that we're encountering. In terms of how advertisers work with supporting television, of course, TV networks have to try to do their best to measure and find out how many people are watching television shows so that they can then go to advertisers and say, we have this many million people who watch the show and they have these characteristics that you want. The company that does the vast majority of this kind of monitoring is Nielsen, the Nielsen ratings. And they set advertising rates through these sweeps periods that you've probably heard about in reference to TV. During sweeps periods, that's when they do all the fantastic high stakes things in TV shows, big cliffhangers or super guest stars, because they're trying to maximize viewership. And that viewership, those measurements are going to set the prices for the next 3 months for ads. Okay, so the data that's used to do this is what's known as ratings, which is how many people are watching a television show out of all the houses with TVs. And then there's also what's known as share, and this is a thing that people who work in television are more interested in than advertisers, because it's about how many people are watching our show versus the other show. What's our share of the television audience? Nowadays, Nielsen tracks the live viewing, but because so many of us are using digital video recorders, we're using DVRs, they also do what's called plus ratings. So you have the same day, then the 3 days, and then within the week. So if you record something and you watch it within 7 days, they also will count that. However, those numbers aren't all created equally. In some cases, it makes sense you want people to have seen your ads not within 7 days, but very quickly. For example, if you are running local ads and you have a sale or something like that, you're most interested in people watching right away. So live viewing is still the most valued viewing in TV.